These sessions, I first want to thank the advising department as well as Hannah, who is our marketing director extraordinaire. I may have given her a title shift there, but she deserves it, for getting these all together. So you may notice that we are one of many portfolio review and info sessions that you may see in the next, what would you say, week or so for everyone. And these are meant to keep you all as informed as possible moving forward, and make the best decision that fits your future goals and your future careers. So not every one of these sessions may align to what maybe you thought the session was going to align to, or it may change your mind and cause you to go to this track instead of another one. But that's why we do this ahead of time, so you can make the best call for your future. As we always want you to be successful during the academics and outside when you graduate and all that good stuff. So my name is Matt Dombrowski. I am an associate professor of emerging media. I am also the area coordinator for experimental animation. And today we're going to be talking a lot about the experimental animation track. We're going to be answering some fun, frequently asked questions that we tend to get a lot in advising and as my professor, myself, and my colleagues. And we'll talk a little bit about the very new experimental animation portfolio, which will be unveiled spring of 2022. If I get my dates wrong, I have my team are going to say, no, 2022. So we're super excited about that portfolio. It's really allowed our program to grow and expand and continue to flourish and be an amazing thing. So let's go ahead and get started. That's a little bit about me. My colleagues who are not here today, I am joined in memory. I don't know if that's the right way to say it. It sounds like they're gone, but they're here. But I'm joined for experimental colleagues, Scott Hall, Keith Kovach, and Michael Cabrera, as well as our visiting faculty member, Angie Hernandez. So they are all faces and names you may see during the process that, kind of help you get more information on the tracks that you're entering. So we're going to do this presentation. There'll be plenty of time for questions at the end of the presentation. So if a question does arise, I do ask that all of you maybe take note of it, write it down so you remember, and we can readdress it. And I'll be happy to go back to the slideshow to that specific area to answer your question later. But we're going to go ahead and get through all the slides first as we move forward. So about the EA track, one of the first things you'll notice is we do like to abbreviate and use acronyms in here. So we're not talking about electronic arts, we're talking about the experimental animation track. And so experimental animation holds a very close place to my heart. I am actually an alumni of the art animation program, which I won't tell you how many years ago that was, because many of you may not have actually been born during that time. But the experimental animation track was formerly called art animation, and it is the original animation track at UCF. And I had to put this in here because this is kind of hard to believe. We've almost been around for 30 years now. Isn't that amazing for the advising crew there to think about that? 30 years. That's a pretty cool accomplishment. And for experimental, we're going to talk about the intricacies of our program, but experimental is about producing art of different media and format, and our students go on to become the next art directors, design leaders, and innovators of tomorrow in their professional creative industries. For us in experimental, it is well more than just technology, even though you will learn that. It's really about fostering artistic, creative thinking, traditional art skills, and kind of merging all these different mediums to come together to do some amazing creative work when you graduate. So ultimately, our goal is to prepare you all for your future careers. Some of those careers might not exist yet in the sense of what you do. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of fun ones that our students, go into and, think of what they're doing on The Mandalorian and shows with, using game design to do production work. It's really amazing to see how every couple of years this media does change. We do ask our students to get to narrow down their artistic focus in their senior year, and they supplement that with a bunch of amazing traditional art electives. All of this over the past 30 years has really led us to a great honor where our program, as well as the character animation programs, we'll call them UCF Animation, we're very fortunate to gain the ranking of #2 in the country for public animation institutions. And this is a really big deal because the majority of animation and entertainment companies are actually based out of California, as many of you may know. And so for us to be the #2, and realistically, the #1 is LA, UCLA, but to be the #2 public animation institution is a huge honor for us and a step in the amazing right direction. So super thrilled about my colleagues over in character animation and all the amazing work we're all doing together to kind of produce such innovative creatives that are going into the industry. So who are our students? Our students in the program typically focus in a variety of elements, some more than one aspect. We have 3D modeling, texturing, those who are interested in lighting and rendering. We have those interested in 2D animation, 3D animation, stop motion, VFX, motion graphics, and even those who want to focus in kind of traditional animation techniques with analog elements, so pen and paper, you name it. The great thing about our program is that we can actually kind of combine a lot of these areas to create innovation and to create what you're ultimately seeing in the real production world. So our students may come in interested in 2D animation and they may leave with a passion for stop motion, and that's fantastic. But ultimately in our program, students will get a sampling of all of the elements you see here on the screen so they can get their best, have their best foot forward when they choose something to focus on their professional careers. The job market for our program really spans a lot of different industries. We have students who have gone on to work in movie and TV production, video game, the simulation industry, which is huge here in Orlando, the theme park industry, another industry that's big in Orlando. And we even have students who go on to exhibit in galleries and independent film festivals, and then some who choose to go and teach and expand their horizons by going to grad school after the fact. So it's a really diverse set of alumni. And I wanted to include some of those alumni. So I picked a few of the ones that are near and dear to my heart. We have people who've gone on to be directors of design at Viacom. So if you're familiar with CBS, obviously it's a very big company. Jamasa is in charge of a lot of the designs you see there. Michael, who is a senior creative lead at FX Networks. FX does the American Horror Story series. So if you've ever seen those really weird, innovative intro sequences, that's Mike. Alec has worked for Electronic Arts and Sledgehammer Games. Andrea worked at McGarry Bowen and Nickelodeon doing social media art, which is something that when she graduated, social media was like MySpace. If you don't know what that is, it's an old social media thing. Iva is amazing. Ivan Ellis has worked for the Avatar movies. She's worked in video games. She is currently at the Moving Picture Company, which is one of the premier companies in Hollywood for filmmaking. Juan has worked at EA and Certain Infinity, working on the Call of Duty series. Mo has won actually an Academy Award for his work on Frozen, and has moved on to be the senior technical director for the Hotel Transylvania series. And then we even have students who go into industrial design, like Travis. Travis was actually a peer of mine when I was a student, and he now designs, believe it or not, the air conditioning covers and different speakers for companies like Apple and whatnot. So quite amazing, the work that our alumni, and this is just a small sample of, again, 30 years worth of students. Our students have gone on, like I mentioned, a few of the projects to work on some of the biggest projects in entertainment, whether that's Avatar or the Avengers series like Infinity War and Endgame, whether that's with Laika working on Kubo, all really amazing things. There's some unique ones in there as well, like Game of Thrones and upcoming Apple TV series Invasion, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we have students kind of transcend these different types of media and different industries to bring their talents that they learn in experimental to the real world. And what's so great about our program for me is the ability to be exposed to so many different types of mediums and different types of ways to produce art and combine and merge and create new methods of creating art. That's what has made these students so desirable for our experimental animation students, turning into the alumni that you have seen here today. So just a brief step back, there are 3 different distinct programs in the Emerging BFA. We have the character animation track, the graphic design track, and the experimental animation track. All 3 of these programs actually have unique portfolio reviews to gain access to them. They are all limited access programs, which we'll talk a little bit about. But ultimately, if you graduate from any of these 3, you will receive your BFA in Emerging Media. So your diploma will ultimately say the same thing. Everyone who wants to go to character, graphic design, or experimental will always say BFA in Emerging Media. So a big question we get asked a lot, and it's a valid one, is what is the difference? Why do we have 2 animation tracks? What is the difference? Well, we've noticed over the years that some students really thrive in a group environment, while other students really want to focus and hone in on individual elements of their craft. And that's realistically where the experimental animation program and character animation program differ. And experimental, we have an individual focused art production approach. We have students who are perfectly fine creating their own work, focusing on their own research and study of the craft and the industry that they want to enter. Whereas in the character animation group, they work on a 2-year production that creates some amazing films that are mainly based for film production. And not to say and not to limit my amazing colleagues over there, I think their program's fantastic, but it's just more of a group versus an individual production. Experimental animation students, again, hone their own individual styles of art and their own technology, where the character animation group have kind of a shared visual language of the art that they produce. So both programs are 2 years, junior and senior year, and they're in the cohort model, meaning you will come in with a group of students and you will, if all goes well, you will graduate with that same group of students 2 years later. This really allows, obviously the focus to be put on the classes at hand and getting the students the content they need to go into that future industry. So big question we get all the time. Successful animation students will have the following. So I get asked all the time, what makes a good experimental animation student? And the strongest performers we've seen have had the following. They have access to their own computer hardware and software for outside of class use. We do provide access to hardware inside our classes. We do provide access to, obviously, software like you see, Adobe Creative Cloud and Autodesk Maya. But the students that really thrive have the ability to work on their own machines, work at their own pace and their own schedule, especially when it's outside those class hours. Our students are really strong in their communication skills, whether that's communication via visual art and visual storytelling or communication professionally. We've tended to see the students really thrive in working that way. They have a passion for creativity and learning. Our students explore, and hence the word experiment, and are willing to try new things to see what can help amplify their creative output. Our students use creative problem solving and are adaptable to all different types of art styles and technology. And ultimately, we really strive for our students to be professionals, exhibit maturity, and ultimately show respect toward all and others while a student here in the program. And a lot of these are what they used to call soft skills, but for us, they've really showcased great growth in academics and future success. So all the students I listed previously that have gone on and became art directors and senior designers have had most of these bullet points when they were students. So moving on here. Students ask me all the time what hardware they should invest in. For most of the people here in the room, you're still sophomores, maybe even less, maybe you're freshmen, maybe you're still in high school, depending on where you're joining us from. It's really important to think about investing in appropriate hardware when you become a junior and gain access to the program. So this information will update as technology changes, but we essentially encourage our students to, whether it's a laptop, desktop, you name it, encourage them to have access on a regular basis to a computer that can run Adobe Creative Cloud and Autodesk Maya. And there are specific system requirements for each of those programs, but this is just kind of those in a nutshell. So that means a computer with high RAM, good graphics card, and we do have access to those computers during class time. But again, students ultimately benefit when they have access to a computer outside of the classroom as well. We are in an industry that does involve a lot of practice, a lot of work, a lot of rhythm and repetition of different creative tools. And this is the best way to put that best foot forward. If you have more questions in the sense of, we'll take questions at the end, but if you want more of the frequently asked questions or want to learn more about different hardware suggestions and whatnot, I've included the link here, which is found if you go to svad.ca.ucf/program experimental-animation. There you'll find a lot of the commonly asked questions like we're covering today, but you'll also find a little more detail about the do's and don'ts of suggestions. So do I use a Chromebook or should I buy a Surface tablet? And so we talk a little bit more in detail about those specific hardware needs. So I wanted to include that for everyone because there's some very valuable information, not only on the webpage for technology, but also on the portfolio review and the other topics we're going to talk about today. So with that said, speaking of portfolio review, we are really excited to continue to grow the program over the last 30 years to be on the cutting edge of the professional industry and more or less a lot of different professional industries. With that, that means we need to continually update our curriculum to stay fresh and current to make sure that emerging media is actually relevant in your studies. So recently we have put forth a new experimental animation curriculum, which I'm really excited to share with you today. This revised curriculum has some really fun new courses that should benefit all different types of learners. This revised curriculum is offered for those students who apply for the experimental animation portfolio review and who are accepted this spring for the fall 22 semester. So in other words, this cohort would start during fall of 2022. The new classes involve things like a specific 3D modeling class that focuses on more animation, TV, and film production techniques, as well as some video game style modeling. Procedural animation, which dives into the ability to use different plugins and tools to help amplify animation practice. And then we really focus on professional development. So one of the things I'm most excited about is in your junior year, if you successfully pass the portfolio for spring coming up here, you'll have the opportunity to get an early professional development class. So it's basically a class for experimental animation professional practice in which you'll be able to learn tips and tricks to help get you through the next 2 years of the program. But not only that, but help you achieve internships and help you really prepare yourself for the following 2 years to maximize your time here in our program. At the end of the actual experience, so spring semester of your senior year, you'll have another professional development class, which is experimental animation thesis. And what's really amazing about that class is that's when we shift focus away from academics and we start talking about things like getting a job, applying for jobs, how to successfully conduct an interview, and everywhere in between. And so it's a really amazing class where we've seen a lot of success, especially with the thesis class from students from last year, really obtaining jobs rather quickly in the industry because they were better prepared with their portfolios and so forth, the way they were ready to go for that. We have a class called Digital Effects and Compositing, which is going to work on visual effects. And then another fun one that we've started to institute is called stop motion animation. So previously, students have worked on stop motion in their senior year with their kind of advanced class. Well, this gives everyone another opportunity to kind of explore the medium of stop motion in a dedicated class solely focused for those who want to do stop motion animation. So again, students who submit to the experimental animation portfolio this year and who are accepted of spring this coming up next semester will have access to this new curriculum. And if you're in a later catalog year, just understand that if you submit to the studio art portfolio, you will not have access to these new innovative classes. So we highly encourage everyone to submit this spring, if you haven't already, to the experimental animation portfolio for consideration in our new and improved program. The program kind of breaks up like this. Every semester, you get a sample of different classes in your junior year. So we talk about things like professionalism. We talk about 2D animation, an introduction to animation. Modeling for visual language. We focus on the 3D aspect of art creation. And then you have the ability to take a fine art SVAD restricted elective as well. So you're really getting a sample early on of the different mediums you could eventually work in the professional industry. Come junior year, we start talking about how to amplify those basics. So how to take 3D to the next level and animate in 3D, how to take 3D to the traditional world and create narrative sculptures. So actually physically creating maquettes and different types of stop motion puppets in narrative sculpture. And then we also have students, again, explore those traditional art electives to really enhance their future goals. Come senior year, we focus again on your creative idea. So I talked about experimental being all about individual study and individual exploration. And in your senior year, you really get 2 semesters to focus on you. This means if you want to go into video games, modeling for video games, this would give you a whole year to really focus on researching what it takes to be in that creative industry. Amplifying this even further, you'll have the ability to kind of work in motion graphics and learn a couple other techniques. Come spring of senior year, we're going to end with another professional development class and then a small opportunity to work in a group project. So though we are individually focused, we do like to give our students a brief opportunity in one class to kind of come together and share their creative ideas and create some amazing creative outcomes. Ultimately, this new portfolio is really set up for your success. So our goal is to have you professionally ready for any job you wish to go into, be informed, be researched, and more importantly, understand what your field of study, your profession of choice will be by the time you graduate. So when you graduate, there's no question of what do I do? What are the next steps? You should know those by now by taking this new 2-year cohort. All right. And absolutely, just to echo what he did there in the chat, I will answer all these questions, maybe in a few slides, but definitely we'll have opportunities for anything I haven't answered at the end of this session. So speaking of Experimental's animation portfolio, we are really excited to have a unique portfolio experience for all of our incoming applicants this spring. So in spring of 2022, we are encouraging all students who wish to be a part of the experimental animation program to apply for the experimental animation portfolio that is specific to our program. This will give you not only access to that new amazing curriculum, but it will also allow you a few unique opportunities in your portfolio to showcase different types of artwork to best communicate the skills and talents that you have. So over the next couple slides, what I want to do is kind of break down what those portfolio requirements are. Again, we'll have questions at the end, but hopefully I'm going to show you some examples of student work, some examples of what we're expecting for each of the categories, and how you can put your best foot forward in preparing for applying to this cool new portfolio in the spring semester. Students who are accepted in the spring semester will be eligible to start in fall of 22 for the new experimental animation cohort. So before you kind of start with the portfolio submission, it's really important that you regularly speak to SVAD advisors and make sure that you've obtained all of the prereqs that you see here. So there are some students who take some of these classes in the spring, and that's perfectly fine. You can still apply if you're taking the class, but it is pending that you get a successful grade of a C or better, with the exception, obviously, there of DIG 2000. So these are the courses that we recommend students have or are taking by the time they submit their experimental animation portfolio. If these are not completed by the time that fall 2022 rolls around, you will be ineligible to kind of enter the program. So make sure that you're working with your SVAD advisors, and we'll provide that contact information a little later, to assure that you are passing, getting the correct grades, and on the right track for success in our program. So for the experimental animation portfolio, there are 4 unique sections that we're looking for. The portfolio is evaluated by myself and my other 3 experimental animation colleagues. And what we'll do is basically get together, and we'll talk a little bit about the ratings in a second, but we're going to look at 4 unique sections for your portfolio. So students will gather these sections and put them together in a single PDF file, and they'll submit a PDF file that includes what you see here. We are asking students submit a cover letter, and we're going to go over each of these sections, so don't worry. A 2D, 3D design, sculpture, or industrial design section where you showcase 5 artistic pieces. An observational drawing section, which also includes 5 artistic pieces. And then a time-based media. So time-based media for us could be something that you've done in your DIG 2030 class. It could be a video that you made outside of class. And that's one of the things I'm really excited about our portfolio, because as you can see here, we are asking students for a sample of work. This work doesn't necessarily need to be classwork. It can also be traditional or digital pieces. So that's what's kind of makes us differ from some of the other portfolio reviews out there. So you may have an amazing observational drawing that you've created in a program like Procreate, and we encourage you to submit that as one of your 5 observational drawings. One thing we don't want to see in these sections is any overly copyrighted material or fan art. We want to see as much of your creative imagination as possible. What makes you unique as an artist, and what really showcases your talents that you've learned in your traditional prereqs and your art classes. So let's talk a little bit about each section in detail, and then we'll answer some of those questions. So the first is the cover letter. The cover letter is essentially 1 page only. So anything over a page will be ineligible. A successful cover letter should really tell us who you are and why you want to enter the track. We're really looking forward to hearing stories about what inspired you to become an animator, or what type of specific individual artistic study you look forward to focusing on in the experimental animation track. We want to hear about your future goals. We want to hear about where you want to go when you graduate, what jobs you want to do. And our goal with these cover letters is really to make sure that you're the best fit for the program, but more importantly, the program's the best fit for you. So a lot of students apply with good intentions, but they may be better suited in other programs like the BFA in illustration or any of the studio art programs. And we want to make sure, when it comes to the cover letter, that you tell us where you're passionate. We want to see, cover letters that showcase excitement and all of those great student qualities that you saw me list on the previous slide. So the cover letter is the kind of first point of entry when it comes to the 4 sections you're going to include. And it's really important on this portfolio that everyone make sure that they read the directions and follow the directions to a T. So again, 1 page cover letter. We don't need a novel or 20 pages, but we just want to hear in a professionally formatted cover letter what makes you unique in the sense of your art, your creativity, and your imagination, and what your aspirations are. So we're really looking forward. That's one of my favorite parts about this, is I get to really learn about you before that 2 years. And that really helps us better kind of work with you over the next 2 years for those who are accepted. So I have here the next section is 2D design. So for this section, we ask students to submit 2D, 3D, sculpture, or industrial designs. We're asking for 5 pieces, one of which is 2D and one of which at least is 3D. And I've gone ahead and included some amazing examples from students who have passed the portfolio reviews, who are currently in our program. And these were done before their entry. So, some students may submit more 3D works and 1 2D work. Other students may submit more 2D works and 1 3D work. These can be traditional, these can be digital, but presentation, for my best advice for all of you watching today, presentation is a must. So make sure when you're producing these works for your portfolio, because remember, you only get 5 pieces in this category, that you put your most professional foot forward. So that means clear, crisp photographs, cropped photographs, or arranged photographs like this. This is a really great thing because this is one artwork and they've shown us 4 different unique models. So very, very interesting stuff. This one artwork shows a nice zoom in. These were actually done with tape in the 3D design class. Again, the constant with all of these, and these are all 3D works, is professional polished presentation. Don't leave anything to the imagination when you're putting together your PDF here. Some more really, these are actually made of cereal boxes. This is kind of a cool assignment that these students particularly did in their design classes. So the 3D design aspect of what I'm showing you here could be work from class. It could be work from outside of class. Here we have some narrative sculptures that our students worked on using Sculpey and acrylic paint, all of which are really well presented and showcase imagination, creativity, and a competence in the basic principles and elements of design. And what I mean by that is, as I go through these, all of your prerequisite classes that I previously mentioned, you're building up a skill set in that traditional art that you could apply to digital formats, but we want to see that you have a basic competency of color, form, shape, line, you name it, the principles and elements of design throughout. And here are some great examples of digitally produced 2D design work. So these 2D design works aren't necessarily from a class, but there are strong examples of light and form and all sorts of good things. I saw in the chat real quick, can we have 3D models? Absolutely. That could allow for either 3D design or industrial design. What we want to do is, we understand there are students out there who are amazing with traditional tools, but are also well-versed in digital tools. And we don't want to stifle that for you. We want to make sure that you put your best artistic foot forward when it comes to creating your own portfolio that showcases why you should be a part of this good program. Here are some digital art layouts that were created in the Intro to Computer Art class. Again, good use of composition and color, good use of typography, showcasing some skills in 2D design. Another one from that class. And so again, we're not looking for just your assignments. If you choose to put in just your assignments from 2D and 3D design, that is perfectly fine as well. But we want to make sure that every student has the ability to showcase their best art to gain entry to this program. So some record designs that this class did. These are really fantastic. From Ashley Taylor's class. Some students may choose to put in 3D models. So just, not every student has experience in 3D modeling. And with that said, we are not expecting that a student knows how to 3D model. That is not going to sway our decision. What we're looking for, again, is a competency in those principles and elements of design. So do you professionally present your work? Do you visually communicate it in a way that shows that you understand the basics of proportion, perspective, scale, rhythm, repetition? And that's going to be really important. You choose what work fits best for you. And we'll be able to determine, myself and my colleagues, because again, we've been doing this a few years, the best fit for the program. Here's some work for color. These are really beautiful. These are all found objects. Line work. This was only using black tape. More color work. More sense of design and shape and form and negative space. Negative space, shape, form, and line can be conveyed in multiple mediums. It could be done with a digital work. It could be done with traditional work like you see here. It could be done with 3D space. Your goal is to just show us your best work that amplifies these specific categories. So these are just a sample of what you could expect in a very strong section 2 of the portfolio for experimental animation. Moving on to section 3, we're looking for observational drawings. Now, observational drawings could come from your drawing classes, whether you took them here at UCF or you took them elsewhere. you may find that you are using observational drawings. What we're looking for observational drawings is a good sense of proportion, a good sense of perspective, an understanding of line quality and composition. And so no matter the style that you've drawn these in, we are looking for how do you showcase depth and how do you translate what you see to a artistic medium. So here's some more successful examples, and you can see they don't all match the same style, and that's okay for us. There's a lot of effective use of perspective, proportion, in some cases even color in some of these. We really want to encourage you to showcase your best work and the best things you have presented. And notice all the pictures I'm showing you are cropped, they're color corrected, they don't have like folded edges or torn edges. That's going to be a big part of the portfolio as well. How do you professionally present the work that you've showcased? So again, some more character kind of figure work here. Good sense of observational pedimento. Now, switching gears, observational drawings don't always have to be from a drawing class, and they don't always have to be bind charcoal or even pencil. We have a lot of success from students creating self-portraits, creating portraits of family members or pets or animals, all of which can be done in any medium. So whether that is digital, traditional, or a hybrid, we really look forward to students showcasing the scope of what they know. And so some students are more adept to creating observational drawing in a digital format, and that's perfectly fine. But just like the traditional drawings, it really comes down to the presentation, clear quality of how you show your work. None of these are pixelated, none of these are blurry, none of these are taken with big shadows on them and things like that. This one has a shadow in the middle, but it's painted, so I'll allow that. But realistically, it's a kind of a milestone for you all to reach, to kind of say, okay, how can I communicate that I understand this art and I'm ready for the next step, which is the BFA level programs. Now, time-based art can be a lot of different things. It could be a GIF that you've created. It could be a live action video, a short film. We are limiting our time-based media to submit only 1 minute or less. So you may have to edit something down to show us. Time-based media will be submitted through a YouTube link, and that YouTube link will be put on one of the pages of your portfolio. So as we see, here's some student examples of students who've already explored animation, and this would be something that somebody could submit where it's very good animation, but it's not the polish that you'll do or the level that you'll do once you take the program. So as I continue to go through some of these, let me use my mouse. You can kind of see here. This was produced by a former alumni of ours, Jurgen, and this was done in his sophomore year before he entered the program. So you can kind of see. Now, what we're looking for here is that you've kind of talked a little bit about, or you've kind of explored a little bit of the moving format. And some students haven't had opportunities to do this, but other students, let me click here, have created films in their DIG 2030 class. So this is Colby. Colby has created a short film. We're looking for narrative storytelling, the ability to take a digital work and a time arts piece, so a work that is animated or has time or length to it, to kind of work through it so you can kind of see through. All right, so I'm not going to play the 2 minutes of that, but a lot of you create these things in DIG 2030 or the class that maybe you've supplemented if you're an exchange student for that class. So most students do have some sort of time-based media. So when we're looking at all of these, we are going to kind of base your portfolio on a few different factors. The first factor realistically is, do you meet the core requirements? So did you meet all the prereqs? Did you get the proper GPA in those prereqs? If that is a no, we will not look at the portfolio, and you'll have to work with an advisor to make sure you have the right track forward. If you do meet those portfolio requirements, we're going to look at the written section, so how your cover letter is written and how you convey the things we've asked you to convey. We're going to look at if you're above a 3.0, we're going to look at your grade point averages and see how well you do academically. is very important. Preference is given to the students who obviously have a good, combination of all of these things. And the majority of your portfolio is going to be based off of the artistic content. So experimental animation portfolio and artistic content means, are you showcasing work to us in one single PDF following the rules that I've just kind of briefly talked about that shows professionalism in display, artistic ability, creativity, and showcases the proper kind of focus for someone who would come into a experimental animation program. So again, this can be traditional, digital. We really wanted to make sure that you all had kind of the full spectrum of opportunity to showcase what you have to get into this limited access program. Now, being that said, when we talk about access, we will accept relatively around 90 students a semester. And this is due to our facilities and our faculty. So, we base the first element off of these criteria, and then the next elements come from 90 student or the 90 spots that we have for our program. This is in par with the character animation program as well as the graphic design program, both who have a ceiling set due to the number of faculty members and the number of space requirement. And typically in a year, we can have anywhere of 130 to 200 students apply for any given emerging media program. So it's, these are competitive reviews, and these are, the idea behind that is that cap of 90 allows us to focus once you're in the program to give you the best educational possible without being saturated by hundreds and hundreds of students in a class, which kind of lessen your experience. So, by making it kind of that capped 90-person cohort, we'll have 3 cohorts of 30 that will allow, more one-on-one feedback, more attention to critique and whatnot, and make our program and essentially our outcomes for our students better. So again, more professional success will come from that. We obviously always encourage our students to have a backup plan, which we'll talk about. Students who apply for the experimental animation portfolio often apply to the character animation portfolio as well, the same semester. Some even apply to the graphic design and the studio art portfolios too. So, my best advice after being here for about 15 years as an instructor and a professor is to make sure that you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Really use the time from now until spring to think about what your backup would be, where you see yourself going, and go from there. Students who do not pass the portfolio can reapply the next spring, but we are taking one cohort every year. So just like experimental or just like character and graphic design, they also take one cohort every spring, and that cohort begins the following fall semester. So we really do encourage students to do their homework, do their research, and make sure, again, to avoid being delayed, understand your alternatives and your backups. So what does that mean? And so I'm going to have, if Wahida is available too, pop her camera on here, because Wahida, there may be some clarification with what I say. But if you do not pass the experimental animation portfolio on the first time, your first step always is to speak to our amazing advisor team. And I'm not saying they're amazing because they're standing here in front of me. I'm saying they're amazing because their job is to see you succeed. And their job is to help you get the best foot forward for success. So definitely talk to your advisors, talk to them frequently. Now, Wahida, I'll pitch it to you real quick. What is a good expectation for a student to talk to an advisor? Do you want to see them once a year, once a semester? What's your preferred?
Yeah, so we definitely prefer to see them once a semester. This way we can ensure that, you're progressing towards submitting your portfolio and or after being admitted into your program towards graduation. So definitely make an appointment would be the best. The earlier, the better, so that we can check to make sure things are on track. But once a semester is what we would prefer.
And we will be accepting portfolio reviews every spring semester from here on out. So that means, again, if you're very determined to be in the experimental animation portfolio and it doesn't work out for you the first time, you will be, and you want to stick with that, you will be asked to apply the following spring, which means it will delay your graduation. So speaking to your advisor is pivotal for your success, because there are things you can still do even though you're delayed, where the advisor can give you the best classes to take, the best, plan of action, where yes, you'll be delayed, but it could not be as big of a delay as it would if you weren't to speak with them. I'm getting thunder. I don't know if anyone's hearing that.
Yeah, we're getting that too.
I'm not trying to be ominous with this information. It's just nice background.
Yeah, I was gonna say bad sound for this one.
Yeah. We have, and Wahida, we've seen this over the years. We have students that may think a track is the right fit and then ultimately end up going, you know what? I should have gone to that track, or I'm a better fit for graphic design, or I'm a better fit for BFA and illustration. And it doesn't hurt our feelings if a student goes, even if they're accepted into our track, if they say, oh, well, I got into this track and graphic design, I'm going with graphic design. We want you to put your best foot forward and help you prepare for your best academic success. So we've had students in the past who the world of animation and the rigor, because you are entering a highly technical, a lot of work, a lot of learning technical tools, art tools, processes, where they realize, you know what, this major isn't for me. I'm going to explore something else. Those students sometimes go over to game design in other colleges, or I've had some completely go to like psychology and other tracks, because that's what they love the most. So I can't stress enough, do what you love to do. And if you have like a moment of doubt right now and you're like, I don't really want to do that, don't do it. This is the time where you can make that adjustments. As long as you're talking to people like our great advisors and you're informed, make that shift now rather than when it's too late. And because you all are going to be doing this career for the next 40 years of your life. Think about that. 40 years. I'm halfway there, almost. But you want to make sure it's right for you and you didn't waste this time. So, and Wahida, I feel you could add to that.
Yeah, so the other thing I wanted to stress is once you come in and speak with an advisor, we always say have this alternate plan in mind, and we will walk you through what our students do as an alternate. We might say to you, submit the experimental animation portfolio and the studio art portfolio if your alternate plan might be to do a studio art degree.
Sure.
So we talked to you early about this, and then we also recommend courses that you should be taking based on what your alternate plan is, so that you're not sitting around one semester not doing something. We try to, as best as we can, provide you with a schedule or recommendations that you could move into either direction with. So it is critical that you come in and see, mostly Marlene and Jessica does the bulk of the advising in our office. So you'll definitely be seeing one of them, but you could also see me, when I'm available. But I cannot stress to you, the earlier the better, for us to make sure that you will be in the correct courses to submit portfolio, and then also to keep you on track.
To put it in perspective, I speak to Wahida on a regular basis, and I'm not even a student, right? So to keep me on track, I speak to our advising department a lot, and I'm not a student. So keep that in mind. A story I want to end with this slide is not passing a portfolio review. I can't stress enough, is not the end of the world. It may feel like that, but one of the great stories, I've seen this story happen a lot, but my particular personal story is when I was in college, myself and my roommate applied for the portfolio review. I got in, he did not. He had to wait that whole year to apply again. To put in perspective, he applied and it was successful. He was delayed a year in graduation, but now he is one of the top art directors at Electronic Arts. So by not passing a portfolio review, that does not mean you're a failure. It is competitive. There are other people that, it's just the luck of the draw sometimes for that when it comes to competition. But just know that doesn't make you lesser than. That just means that it wasn't the right time now. So, again, as I mentioned, 40 years in the career that you're going to go into, a delay of a year is nothing comparatively. If that delay of a year gets you to that art director position one day, which may have not happened if my buddy had gotten in when I got in, that the stars may not have aligned with those opportunities. It's something to think about. and you know, it sounds like teachers speak. I know it does. I've been in your seats right now, but I can't promise you enough that it is truly what's meant to be will happen, and it's going to take work, and it's going to take sometimes inconveniences, right? And delays, but ultimately you're going to get where you want to be, and you're going to get where your heart's at, and you're going to, you know, whether it's with experimental or another program or wherever, if you're wanting to do something like passionately enough, you'll get to that final product. So I just want to keep you with that, because this slide oftentimes comes off negative in the sense of, oh, you didn't get in, which is sad, but it's really just the start of your journey. And, you know, we have the support system in SVAD to let you all to put your best foot forward for success. And I can honestly say, again, I feel like I'm kissing the brown nose into my advisors here, but they truly care about your success. And so do myself and my fellow colleagues. Ultimately, we want you to be where you're the happiest. And I want to put you on a slideshow eventually and be like this person, right? All really, really important. So if you're interested in other tracks or you want to explore backup programs, we have some other media events that you can attend. For instance, next Wednesday, we have our awesome character animation open house, followed by our Emerging Media BFA big open house, which I think I'm emceeing, right? Or MDing, I guess I can use my initials. But that's in early October. So that will be a place to get a sample of all of our programs. And we invite you all to, you know, follow us on social media, make sure that you're, you know, informed in the sense of these events. We usually post these on Facebook a lot, as well as Hannah's not with us at the moment, but the other kind of the website, SVAD website and whatnot. So make sure you do your research. Whatever track you get into, research is going to be imperative for success. So keep that in mind. And I believe the character animation open house, as it has the open house link been sent to apply. I think that because that is in October, that will be sent out shortly, is my guess.
Yeah, we will be, sorry, Matt. We will be sending emails, your Knight's emails addresses, with all of these upcoming events that are planned. So
with that said, to take some numbers from you, Wahida, the experimental animation, and I failed to mention this, is the largest program, BFA program, in all of the School of Visual Arts and Design. And I dare I say in all of the College of Arts and Humanities. I could be a little bold by saying that. But we currently have 1,063 students.
In the Emerging Media major.
In the Emerging Media, yeah, which is followed by a ring of thunder because it's so true. But it's kind of, you know, we're super thrilled to see the popularity of this program and really see where you all decide to go. And so we're getting close to question time here, but I wanted to at least end my PowerPoint spiel with my email, mattd@ucf.edu. For portfolio reviews, I know many of you are anxious to show me your work and show me, ask me if it's good enough to, you know, to pass the portfolio review. What I will be doing every month, and we'll announce these via the listserv and our social media, so through your Knight's email as well, I will be holding kind of open office hours during select times from now up until the portfolio review, where I invite anyone who wants to pop in and show some work and get some tips and advice. I will welcome them to that meeting. This will allow us from having to schedule, you know, 1,000 individual meetings and really allow us to maximize our feedback for you. So you can, again, put the best foot forward of your creativity for that portfolio. And then I'm leaving you with also SVAD Advising's email. SVAD Advising serves the little over 3,000 students in the School of Visual Arts and Design, which is a monumental task if you think about that, considering I think I'm counting 4 of them in here. You know, I feel like this whole presentation has been thanking my advising colleagues, but thank you so much for what you do and how you help our students. I can't thank you enough. With that said, we're going to turn it over to some question and answers. So I think the easiest way to do this is if you just raise your hand on Zoom, there's a little raise hand button. We will be able, I'll take you for how they come in. And if you don't have access to a microphone, you're welcome to paste your question in the chat. And some of the questions I most likely, almost all, I'll be able to answer. Others, Wahida may chime in. And others, if we don't know the answer, we may ask you to leave your email and we'll get back to you with that answer. So,
Yep.
you know, we don't have a crystal ball, unfortunately. I wish. I've been asking for one, but we'll do our best to answer. So I see that Riley, you have your hand
Matt,
first.
can I just interrupt for one
Yeah.
second? There's some questions already in the chat that we haven't answered yet. Do you want to start with those?
Sure. Okay, let's start with those. Wahida, are you going to
Yeah.
read those to me?
Yeah.
And then Riley, you're on
Yep.
standby. I don't know. I don't know any.
Yeah, as soon as I'm done, I'll tell you we're done with the chat questions. So the first one is, would you still be able to apply to both studio art and experimental portfolio in the spring? And the answer to that is yes.
Yes.
However, yes, if you're wanting to follow the new track for experimental, you'd have to submit the experimental animation portfolio.
Yeah, if you want, and I highly encourage, I can't encourage enough. The new track for experimental, the new portfolio review will give you access, if accepted, to professional development classes that will be really helpful for your future success. Some students apply for the studio art portfolio track, and they want to back up when it comes to like BFA and illustration or any of the other amazing traditional art ones. So yeah, something to think about.
Thanks.
But yeah, I would say, and I'm going to be bold, but I would encourage the new one. I'm a little subjective to it, I guess.
Thank you. Is there a limit on the number of students? We did answer that one.
90 students. Yeah, 90 students. And that's based off of the 4 to 5 faculty members that we have, as well as the space that we are provided in the building.
Yep. If you're a freshman currently taking prerequisites, when is the best time to submit portfolio? This one I'll take, Matt. Definitely come in and see advising, like we mentioned, to make sure that we just want to ensure what courses you're taking, and we will definitely let you know when you'll be ready to submit.
And to build off that, using that was a fantastic question. Never asked that. All of us are at different rankings because we may be a transfer student. We may be you name it. You may have like had transfer credits or something. So everyone's in a different place, and that's why it's so imperative that you reach out to SVAD advising, like Wahida just said, to make sure that there may be an opportunity that you are ready. We don't know, and so definitely talk to them, and they'll give you their best advice for that.
Sure. Who can we go to for in-progress portfolio critique?
Sure. Like I said, I will shortly announce. We'll send an email out to your Knight's email. I believe starting in October, and I have to figure out my schedule, but I'm going to hold those open office hours in which students can use Zoom and Zoom in and get some one-on-one feedback and suggestions on what they want to show. So I'm going to try to do that once a month, and I will work with Hannah, our marketing director, to get those out to you all, as well as Wahida. So hopefully,
we will send emails on those once we have them set up, for sure. This one was answered already, but can these be digitally 3D modeled characters?
Oh yeah, sure. And do they need to be? No. But if that's something that you show artistic promise in, and that's something you want to show off in a good way, right? Yeah, feel free to share them.
Will the portfolio only be submitted digitally, or do we need to bring the physical artwork anywhere?
I have all due respect for my colleagues. I am a digital person. So it's going to be a single PDF that contains all of those. You will submit it through the website, the Experimental Animation SVAD website, which Wahida, I don't know if you have that link handy, but you'll drop it in the chat at some point. I will. Yep. And we'll open that up in the spring for you to submit, but it would just be the uploading of a PDF.
Right. I'll put it in there in a second. How many usually apply per year?
It depends. Like I said, it can be as high as 200. I've seen it fluctuate over the years depending on the interest of the student, but it definitely will not be under 90. So I guess that's a way of saying that, like, what if only 80 people apply? There's going to be more than 90 for sure.
Hold on, let me get back up here.
I'm glad you're doing it, because I was hoping you'd say no.
All right, I think I found my place.
And we're going to answer every question, by the way, guys. So we're here for you.
Yes, if you do not pass the portfolio 1 year, can you reapply the next year? We answer that one for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Can you submit portfolios in the fall, or is it spring only?
Spring only.
Mhm. Has the character animation open house link has that been sent out? We will be sending that
Soon.
one out. Yep. How can you see who your SVAD advisor is, or how do you make an appointment for SVAD advising?
I'll take
Just
that one.
email.
I'm kidding.
Go ahead, Matt. It's all yours.
It's right there on the screen. Right there. There you go.
Yeah, send an email to SVAD advising, include what your major is or what you're planning to your major to be, your UCF ID, and a phone number where we can reach you if we have any questions. And we will schedule your days and times that you're available to meet with an advisor, and we will set something up for you. But
And
email us.
do not do that a day before the portfolio is due.
No, please start sending us emails now to meet with us. We would prefer that. How do we receive the recording of the Zoom meeting? Actually, we will be, Hannah just mentioned that we'll be sending it out on Monday to the email address that you signed in with or that you registered with. It will also be posted on the website I just posted in the chat, the Experimental Animation Portfolio Review website. And I think Hannah mentioned it will be on YouTube also.
We're going to try to get it as many places as possible. We're super excited about this new curriculum. So I want to get it out there to the masses.
Yep. Get
some of those people who chose USF to come over here. Pick a good school. I said it live.
Oh, you did not. Okay, I was thinking of focusing on concept art / storyboarding for animation, though I would like to gain exposure to animation as well. Do you think this is the right major for that? If not, which would you recommend looking into?
That's a fantastic question. And I think it really depends on your ability to really focus on animation. So if you saw, actually, I'm going to go back real quick to bring up the classes. Bear with me, here you go. This will help answer that question better. So I do have a lot of students that want to focus on concept art, and they have come through our program. They have been successful, but there is a BFA track if you do the studio portfolio that is specifically called illustration, and that will be taught by people like Chuck Abraham, Victor Davila, Chad Cameron, people that are professional illustrators who have done concept art for the real world. And so if you look at our classes here, and hopefully you can still see this, if it's not up there, Wahida. You'll notice it is a mix of, yes, animation classes, stop motion, sculpting, and a lot of, as well as some digital 3D Autodesk Maya. So one thing you will not see in there is a class specifically for concept art. So I commend you on asking that question, but ultimately it's your choice. If you really want animation, look at these classes and say, okay, do these best fit my interests? And if you really want more classes that focus on drawing and illustration and concept art, BFA in illustration is a darn good program with amazing industry professionals that teach it that you may want to explore. You could also apply for both and then make that decision if you get into both. So great question. Yeah.
Okay, if you have animation work that you did out of class that uses models from other properties, can you use it?
So if I want you to avoid anything that could get you sued. I'm not going to sue you, don't worry. But I think that's a very good way to look at it. So if you're using like a 3D model of Sonic the Hedgehog, you're welcome to submit it, but there may be someone who submits an original creation who kind of takes precedent over you in that 90-person cap. So just know original work is the best way to go. Communicate what you have, and if you submit a picture, you can always include a little sentence underneath it if you really need to explain. But yeah, originality is the best thing.
Thank you. So this one is, if you're a character animation major, is it possible to take interdisciplinary classes like stop motion?
No.
No.
So the stop motion class is only for the students who, because it's one of the new curriculum classes that apply to the experimental portfolio next semester. So only those who pass the experimental animation portfolio in the spring of 22 who get in for the fall of 22 will be allowed to take that, which would be I think in 2023 fall, it looks like right there. So keep that in mind. Character animation, and I'm not going to speak a lot on their curriculum because that's their curriculum. I want to make sure that's clear. You pretty much only take character animation classes. They have a very tight production schedule to get the amazing projects that they do done in time. So just be aware that if you're in that program, one of the benefits, and there's not one that's better than the other, but some students like the exploration of art electives, so they end up coming to the experimental track. But ultimately that's up to you. Oh, and somebody did ask, Wahida, if the credits were the same. Every credit is like, for lack of a better way to say, you're taking the same amount of classes.
Right. Yeah. This is a question follow-up from the same student. How much overlap is there between experimental and character animation, like number of courses?
Sure. Let me look at this picture right here. You're going to take Intro to Animation, Modeling for Visual Language. So that's 2. Intermediate Animation. Now, mind you, you'll be in the cohort with your track, so experimental. Digital Effects and Compositing. So 4 classes, at least from what I see here, overlap.
Okay. What does procedural animation pertain to?
Oh no, you take that one, Wahida.
Sure, let's go.
Well,
Thanks,
it's a procedure.
Matt. I'll remember that.
So that's a class I do not teach. I will preface it with that, hence my joke. Procedural animation dives a little bit into methods to animate beyond setting keyframes. And so not to get it too deep into, that's a good question, but too deep into logistics. You can set keyframes or you can animate things that are either code driven. It's not a coding class, but code driven that are, for instance, if I'm animating a car moving up to a garage door, I can animate. A way to animate is when the car gets close to the garage door opens. So we're going to learn unique ways to animate things, whether maybe special effects and particles and things like that, beyond the traditional way to set keyframes. So that's what procedural animation means.
Thanks. I would have answered it the same way.
I thought so. I'm lucky that we have a very talented faculty member, Michael Cabrera, who will be teaching that, who will definitely explain it better.
Since you mentioned that applying to Studio Art wouldn't give you the access to the new curriculum for fall 22, can you still apply for the Studio Art portfolio as a backup plan since its due date is before the due date for experimental animation?
Sure. I don't know when the announcements are going to be made, Wahida. I don't know if we've decided that yet. So that may, obviously having a backup is never a bad thing.
Right. So I think what the student might be referring to, that they would potentially submit their portfolio in the fall semester. And if they were if they were admitted, they could start the old curriculum, so to speak, in the fall 22.
Sure. Yeah, they would. I think it just won't give you the access to the new shiny, amazing classes. Right. Yeah, which I like.
Okay, for the time-based media, if we make an animatic that uses a specific song for a scene, is that followed with proper citation credit?
Yeah, I think that's best practice. And if you forgot to cite that, I probably wouldn't hold it against you. But our focus is less on that music because it is an animation degree. We are focused a lot on the visuals. So just be mindful of that. But citations are always a good thing, especially in academia and college.
Could we resubmit a piece of work that was in our previous portfolio if we had already sent it in our if we had already sent in our portfolio in the past? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of them are easy. Yes.
Yep. Okay. If you pass the portfolio review for experimental but shows a different track, would you still be permitted to take the stop motion as an elective?
So only those who have applied for the experimental animation portfolio solely for experimental. So that new portfolio that I show here will have access to those new classes. So if you apply for another portfolio, like the Studio Art portfolio, you will not have access to those new classes.
Yeah, I think the student was thinking if they applied for the experimental animation portfolio, passed the portfolio, but didn't elected not to start the program, but continue in a different program, would they have access to these courses?
No, those will
Right.
probably, we would need those spots for the students that
Yeah.
chose that program. So once you get into a major, you'll be like, there'll be like a switch when you choose. You'll declare, I'm going to character, and then that switch will turn on, or I'm going to this, and the experimental animation switch will go on.
The seats are reserved for students who were admitted and have accepted their admission into the program, because we only have a limited number of seats in these courses.
Yeah.
So there's a student that says, due to a learning disability, I've been excused from college algebra requirement for gen ed. If I can't take algebra, will I be eligible for portfolio acceptance? You definitely want to reach out to SVAD advising on this one. We will have to look into what options you will be doing for math. So definitely reach out to SVAD advising, and we will follow up with you on what you would need to be doing for the math requirement. You've mentioned an illustration BFA a few times. What is that? And is it an option if you're going to apply for experimental?
Sure, yeah. So there is the Studio Art Portfolio Review, which is a different portfolio review. There'll probably be an info session of some sort on that.
Next week.
Next week, yeah.
Next week, Friday, and we sent one email out. We will be sending another one out today and then next week again.
So those are students who typically apply for things like focusing in painting, sculpture, drawing, and we have one specifically for illustration. So again, our program classes that you see on the screen right now do not completely serve concept art or like pre-production. That is not like the primary focus. We do have students who choose to get into our track and like work on that still, but the best fit for that, if you're into concept art and pre-production, would absolutely be the illustration. And I mentioned before, it is taught by professional illustrators who will give you the best foot forward professionally to get a job after graduation. Now, not to say we won't do that too, but our primary focus is 2D animation, stop motion, motion graphics, movement, right? And then 3D modeling and whatnot. So those are kind of the things we focus on.
So one thing before we go to the questions with the raised hands, again, come in and see advising, because a lot of you are in different catalog years. Requirements vary depending on your catalog year. So we will be looking at each individual catalog year or each individual student, which catalog you're in, and give you your best options. So that's very important. So we're answering a lot of these questions generally, but a lot of them will be specific to your catalog year also.
And I just saw in the chat too, somebody asked, if you take the fall portfolio review, this fall is not the experimental animation portfolio.
It's not.
This fall is called the Studio Art Portfolio, which will not give you access. So unless your portfolio review says experimental animation portfolio, which is only right now offered this spring, you will not have access to these classes unless you pass that portfolio.
Right. Do you want to take the hands?
Sure.
Questions,
yeah, let's go through the hands. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Riley,
then we
thank you
can
for
go
the
back to
invitation.
the text. Yeah.
Hey,
Hi.
I have 3 questions. Should I do 1 or should I just do all 3?
I want to hear question 2, then 3, then 1. Go.
Okay. Question 2 is what happens if you get into multiple programs?
Sure.
Like, how would you would it be something like you guys decide which one to go to, or like how would that work?
Well, if you do that, 1, you celebrate because you're a rock star. 2, it is solely your decision. So at that point, you would declare with SVAD advising which one program you're going to pursue.
Okay. Would there be like a due date that you would have to come to that decision?
There'll be an email that will be sent out that will say, congratulations, you've gotten, in this case, you may get 3 emails, right? And then it will say, please make your decision by blah, 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 email, and then it will give you the instructions to do that.
Okay, awesome. Concerning the cover letter, do you, because you were saying you want to be exactly to the T, do you have any specific instructions, like when it comes to what type we should be using, size, spacing, etc.?
Yeah, I think, following kind of the professionally formatted cover letter is the first step. To be honest, there are great templates in Microsoft Word that if it were me, I would use.
Mhm.
But, obviously 10 to 12 size font. I mean, if you give me something that's impossible to read, right, that's like 4 font, like it's kind of a common sense with that answer, but in the sense of what I'm saying. But yeah, you want to make it as readable as possible, and stay onto one page. So be very succinct, be very clear on what you write, and there's no need to have like giant font or tiny font.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a good question though.
Yeah, just because you guys were saying that you very much wanted to be by the book, so I wanted to
Yeah, I
see
wouldn't
any
be able to measure the
specifics there.
difference between 11 and 12, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, but I know some people, especially like English professors, have their preferences.
I am a son of an English professor. I am, no.
Okay, last one, and then we can go to the next
Yeah,
question.
sure.
If you want some experience in a different type of art field, because I know several people were saying like character design, could we take those as possibly electives along with our major?
That's a fantastic question. Sure. So, like you alluded to other people, the one person mentioned that they wanted to do maybe animation, maybe character design. Well, there are digital illustration classes that you can take. You can, you see where it says SVAD restricted electives. You actually get, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them during your cohort. So if you're really into drawing, take those, right? If you're really into, maybe you're into photography, take a bunch of photo classes. Maybe you're into painting, right? You want to do texture painting and you want to learn traditional painting too. And that's an absolutely great use of those electives. Diversify what you take, right?
Yeah.
Like and that's what I love about our program is because you can kind of customize that experience. Yes, you're going to take those core classes, which, if you want to do like drawing, you may not love the 3D modeling class, but you have opportunities to explore more drawing stuff on the electives. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Isabel,
thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks, Riley.
Oh, good afternoon.
Hi.
Hi. I was wondering for the section 2, the part that you put for like the 2D and the 3D design, would printmaking be a acceptable for like for the 2D work? Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, something that I strove for when we created this is a student like yourself who may have some beautiful prints and printmaking. I'm linotype. I'm going to just mess up all the printmaking terms, but 100% the reason why we have that. So yeah, printmaking would be a fantastic. Photo, right? Photography, also another fantastic way to showcase 2D design.
I also have another question. In that case, would you consider having like some of the photos be like the photos of like the editions, or just like one print out of like
I would maximize your 5 pieces. So if you know that we're looking for 2D, 3D, and like it says here on the rules, at least one must be 2D, one must be 3D. If you have the opportunity to show 2 pieces, if they look similar, right, that's not going to help you. You want to showcase, look, like maybe one piece talks about color, the other piece is really helpful for your line, like to showcase that you understand line work and line weight. So use those pieces to amplify the principles and elements of design. That may happen in a series just naturally, and that's okay. So I don't want to say no to you exactly, but just know that every piece you put in, you're giving me a sample of your competency of 2D and 3D. So those samples should be your best of your best work. And if 2 of those samples basically tell the same story, if that makes sense, like it's not doing you any good. You want to be like, this tells my perspective story, this tells my color story, and like really showcase the broadness of what what you're doing and your ability to kind of like, look, I'm a very well-versed artist to help. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Perfect. It makes perfect sense.
Wonderful. Thank you, Isabel.
So much.
Sebastian or Sebastian.
Yeah, Sebastian.
There you go. I knew how to correct myself right when I said it.
Right, yeah, the French way. Thank you. Good afternoon, guys. I want to say
Afternoon.
first and foremost, thank you so much for this meeting.
No
It
worries.
definitely helped and answer a lot of questions. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I feel like you're very welcome. I feel like my question is more so in regards to advising. I'm not sure if you would still like for me to ask the question.
Pending
go
you're
ahead.
not giving your personal information over.
All right,
you
please
know.
don't.
Right.
But go for it.
Yeah, I'm going to be like very selective in my wording. So basically, I just want to say first and foremost, I am a transfer student. And for example, my previous institution, I took 2D design and intro to drawing, which is somewhat similar to the 2D design and drawing fundamentals one course at UCF. However, in my one of the advisors at SVAD, she told me that I would have to retake those classes because, in terms of the program itself, because they're for two different programs. So, and she told me that the credits I have now, that's not the actual amount of credits I have. UCF won't take all of the credits. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, the drawing one and 2D design classes that I took in the previous intuition, does that count towards my credits, or will they be deducted from them?
Okay, Sebastian, you definitely need to follow up back with us. Send us an email, schedule an appointment, because
Okay.
we'll have to look at what institution you took those courses at.
Right.
Pretty much a lot of institutions, the courses transfer over. However, there are some institutions, and I think there was one of them, and I hope I'm saying this correctly, where I think our drawing 2 was accepted, but the drawing 1 was not. So definitely reach out to us and we will review your course substitutions or course equivalencies again.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yep, not a problem.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Thank you.
All right, Constance, you're up.
Hello.
Hi.
I have a few questions here.
Yeah, let's hear them.
So if say that you pass the studio art portfolio this fall,
Mhm.
is there a link that you can provide or something like that to what the old schedule would look like? Because I noticed
Mhm.
that the new schedule that you just showed for like the new experimental animation is on the website. And so like I was wondering what you would take instead if you passed the studio art.
Yeah, what essentially Wahida can provide that if you want to say that real quick. Wahida.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. You can actually also look at the old catalog year, and it depends on what catalog year you're in.
Mhm.
So reach out to us. We'll let you know what catalog year you're in, and we can provide that for you,
Yeah.
or send you the link to the old catalog.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm.
And then
And
for the
essentially,
second,
there's just a lot more, and just to build off that answer, without getting super specifics, because I don't have it in front of me, there's a lot more focused classes in the new curriculum and a lot more electives in the old curriculum. So that's the amount of it. So we want students have asked us with the older curriculum, we got a lot of student feedback with this new curriculum, and they said, hey, we love our electives, but we also want to have some more professional development focused classes that really help us put the best foot forward. So that's why you'll see the difference.
okay. And then related to that question,
Sure.
say that you pass both the studio art portfolio and then the experimental. So the studio art in the fall, and then you pass the experimental in the spring.
Mhm.
Would you have an opportunity to choose between the two of them? Because obviously I would like to go for the new schedule, but
I would then focus, I mean, if it's my personal advice, I would definitely encourage you to go to the experimental then, the new portfolio. Once you accept kind of your track, yes, you can move out of the tracks, but like that could muddy the waters for you ultimately. That is something that I would like sit with an advisor and ultimately make sure that's the best fit. It's, what you won't be able to do is if you pass in the fall for one, you won't be able to switch into the new catalog. That just.
okay.
Right.
The only thing oh, sorry.
No, you definitely want to follow up with us on that, because we would have to, look at the courses. If you're starting, depending on where you are, if you've taken a bunch of electives, you probably want to follow the old one, so you don't lose those hours. But at the end of the day, if you pass the one in the spring, you get to choose if you want the old or the new. However, like Matt just said, you can't be in between or using you know, a couple of courses from both. So
Yeah.
definitely follow up with us on this one.
Yeah, every
Okay.
time you switch, there is, and I'm not saying this will happen with everyone, depending on everyone's unique situation, there could be a circumstance where you like basically have paid for classes that aren't going to be able to be used. So we like to avoid that because, you know, your money is hard earned. We want to make sure you put that, you know, you get the best experience.
Yeah.
The main thing I'm concerned about is like getting into the or passing the studio art one and not passing the spring one.
So just, you know, if you not passing the spring one, just know that those are the people that are going to be teaching your classes. So, you know, and this is, I always like to be really real with my students, right? Hopefully you all saw that and hopefully you respect that. But, you know, if you weren't let in, if you weren't one of the 90 or whatever it may be, you know, it could be that there was just 90 people who are better, or it could be that, you know, maybe you weren't ready for that yet. So, you know, that's why the experimental animation portfolio review gives you a better gauge of like, oh, I got in, I'll be okay in these classes, right? We want to make sure that, you know, we have a say in kind of who gets into our program, right? And make sure that you're a good fit for it. So I'm sure that fear is there, like you're mentioning, and I think it's absolutely valid. It's just, you know, you want to be ideally a part of the new polished experience in my mind.
Right.
You know, I want you to get that job. I want you to get that, you know, that future dream career. And it doesn't always work out for that, for like that with all the other students. You know, some students may not get in, there may be carryovers, and, you know, just keep that in mind as you go. And, you know, it's not the end of the world if you're in the old track versus the new track. The old track is good. Again, I'm subjective. I think the new track is just a little more sparkly.
Yeah. Okay, that gave me a lot to think about.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. And it's okay, you know, like I said, I always tell the story of my friend who, it's okay to be told no. It's okay to be told you didn't get in, because if anything, you're still going to get that dream career. So
True. Yeah, that's good advice.
And we do have a lot of students that are thinking that way constantly.
Yeah.
Not the only one. Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, lots of options this semester.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I've been where you are. I get it. It's, you know, whatever option you make, whatever decision you make will be the right one ultimately, right? Go with your guts. You know, be flexible, be adaptable, you know, and it will work out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Lewis.
Hi. So
Hi.
I have two questions as well. First should be pretty quick. It's kind of a what if scenario, like a what if scenario.
Oh, I love my what ifs. Bring it.
So let's say hypothetically, someone were to apply for both studio art and the experimental portfolio review for next spring, and they got into studio art and not portfolio review. So then at that point they begin, and then the next fall they start the studio bachelor's program. Could they still apply for the experimental portfolio in that junior year of college and then switch into the 2-year program? So they'll study for 5 years, but that middle year will be spent in the studio art degree, and then they switch back to the experimental track?
I love it, Lewis. That was fantastic. I drew a web. I had like strings everywhere in front of me.
Thank you.
So the short answer to the question is yes, potentially. The long answer, which I won't get too long with, is you as students need to be very careful how many classes you take, because there's a certain amount of classes, when you go over it, you're going to be charged an arm and a leg for it. Okay. So, you know, yes, in the perfect world, you could do all the things that you said. Be very mindful that if you're not speaking with your advisor for that, ultimately it may just be safer to just go through the track you got into, be successful no matter what you do, because you're going to be a great artist, and not worry about like all of a sudden, oh, you reached your credit limit. Sorry, you have to pay out-of-state tuition. Or, oh, yeah, there's a lot of factors that aren't not intentionally, but like it's not anything. We don't write the catalog in that sense, but that you may not know about. So talking to an advisor would be really important. If it was me, and again, just an honest answer, I wouldn't jump through that many hoops. I think if like you're worrying about all those other things, I would say, are you worrying enough about the classes you're currently taking? And that's a lot of stress and pressure to put on someone to worry about applying again and then doing this and that. So, you know, whatever you get into, excel at it, right? Go 110% at it, you know, really, really push yourself. And so, yeah, your what if scenario is absolutely valid by all means. Just know that, you know, kind of it's easy said now than actually doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's kind of why it's nice to get a quick yes or no and then understand the scenario before investing too much time into it. So thank you
for
that.
money, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't want you to go, I want you to have money.
Exactly. So
What's your next question? Yeah.
Basically, this is a bit more out of the scope, I think, but I was wondering, are there any kinds of study abroad opportunities that are particularly relevant to the animation degrees that you know of?
It's
Not
really
any
tricky.
specific by name programs, but in general,
Sure.
could someone go to study abroad and find a couple things there with this programs?
So the way our classes are currently built that you saw on the other page, study abroad is always something you could do, but then that doesn't equal classes in our program. So it becomes extra classes, and that kind of leans toward the answer I gave you a few seconds ago. So once you start adding these extra things like double majors, all that, once you're going to start paying more. So there are times where, sure, if you got into a study abroad, but just know it wouldn't count toward the classes currently that we have in experimental.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
To be
The other-
extra.
Yeah, the other thing is if you do get into the program, the courses are sequential, you know, fall, spring.
Mhm.
Depending on when you do your study abroad, you're going to get out of sequence. So you might want to
And you can't
definitely,
substitute them.
right. Definitely follow up with advising, because we have advised students, you know, if they're thinking of doing study abroad, maybe do it earlier before they apply for the program. So follow up with us on that, and we
Yeah.
can
Okay,
give
cool.
you some options.
Yeah, and I never want to say anything like that like makes you think that I'm trying to like hold you down, you know?
Yeah,
I think there's value, but
Yeah.
everyone's unique.
Yeah.
I'm trying to save you money. I'm trying to make
Yeah.
sure that you get a job eventually, and you're doing something you love to do, and that's my goal.
All right. Thank you very much for your answers.
No worries. Jermaine,
Hi.
hi.
So earlier in the presentation, you mentioned for the requirements for the submission, you need 2D, 3D, or building arts, right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask the question of if I could do like a 3D character model.
Sure.
I know it said building arts, but are characters okay too?
So yeah, so industrial design could be not necessarily a building, not like an industry. So industrial design could be a building. It could be a product. It could be like I modeled a speaker. I modeled insert this, you know, whatever it may be, like a product, like a phone, you know.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay.
So for 3D design, and I'm going to double dip on my answer here. Look at me, Wahida, from one of the chat questions. 3D design can be digital. It could also be, I saw somebody ask if they could put a puppet, like a 3D modeled puppet. Sure. Yeah, all those suffice as 3D design. So if you have a three-dimensional digital character, you may use that. If you have a three-dimensional physical character that you've made, yeah, well, more power to you.
Okay, cool. And is there a number of, I guess, artworks from different categories that you would recommend, or is it just whatever you're best at?
So there are some rules here, and I'm glad I have this slide up. So you must have at least a 2D work and a 3D work in section 2. Okay. How you define those two things, I've kind of given you some options. You'll see that is a specific one, and then obviously there's a number limit to each one. So 5 artistic total. I don't want to see 6. Somebody will ask me, can I put 4 in? And I'll be like, I guess I would put 5. I mean, why not? Like, use all the spots you have. Observational drawings are 5 are observational drawings. And then section 4, this is the one where you could have 1 to 3 pieces. So you can have 1, you can have 2, or you can have 3 different types of time arts. But that first category, I at least want to see a 2D and I at least want to see a 3D piece.
Okay. All right,
Always
okay.
fill it to 5 though, ultimately. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
don't leave anything on the table and go, what if I just put this one piece in, you know?
And if I animated that said character, could I put that as the,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. That sounds fantastic. Yeah. Have fun. Animation could be some of you doing stop motion. It could be some of you doing film work, social media animation, whatever you got, whatever you've worked on. Show us your creative, show us your imagination. You know, that gets me excited. Like this portfolio review is really about, it's about you, don't get me wrong, but it's really about like all of us faculty members going, oh my God, look at this crew we have coming in. Like it's going to get us amped up. It's going to get us ready to work with you for 2 years. So yeah, we're super stoked.
And one
Thanks,
last
Sherman.
thing.
Yeah, sure.
One last thing. If I did a book cover or something for like 2D design, does that work? Or is
Sure,
that
yeah.
like- okay.
You could even like play that card where if it's an actual book that you designed, was that book 3D or was it 2D? So you could play a little bit with that.
Okay.
I'm savvy enough though, when I see these things, I can, you know,
Mhm.
I can see the difference.
All right. Thank you.
Great question, Shermaine. Juan, you're next, and then we'll go back to the chat.
Chat.
Hello.
Hi, Juan. How are you?
Pretty good. I just wanted to ask a bit, just also about the submissions for
Sure.
specifically for 2D design. Would it be okay to possibly use like, obviously, you know, copyrighted images are no-go,
Mhm.
you know, would it be okay to say, take a bunch of stock images and then go into Photoshop and like arrange them around into like a new interesting piece? Or
You could, I would say, I would challenge this. If you do that and it could look amazing, there could be somebody who took all their own photographs and rearranged them, and theirs maybe just a little better.
that too,
So,
yeah.
yeah, if it comes down to your number 90, spot number 90, right? I like that would happen. You know what I mean? Like the odds of all this is
Yeah.
out there. But if those were the deciding factor, and my colleagues are looking at our rubrics and we go 50% artistic category, well, this person, you know, said they used stock, this person took original photograph, we're going to probably go with the photograph.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Now that's such a narrow example that probably will never happen, mind you, but it just gives you a better answer.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask because, you know, I mean, I
It's a
was
good
also going to
question.
ask, I was just going to ask maybe it was possible to say, if I say took a picture of myself and then edited that photo in an interesting way, that could like look awesome.
Yeah,
That was okay too.
absolutely. Yeah, you're an interesting person. So we want to see that.
All right, that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Juan. All right, back to the
All right,
chat. And then we're
back
going
to
to
the
wrap
chat.
up here because I
Yep.
got a 2-year-old at home who's waiting on his dad.
Are we required to have SVAD restricted electives to graduate? I can answer that one. The answer is yes, depending on what catalog year, it would matter how many. So definitely follow up with us on that. All right, scrolling down.
I lost my place.
Oh,
Go ahead.
um,
There we go.
are any courses available during the summer, or is it based entirely around the fall spring schedule? It's definitely fall spring. Once you're admitted, you start your program in the fall, and it's fall spring, fall spring. So we do not have
Can
these
I
courses.
throw in a
Yes,
butt
yes.
and that you can tell me I'm wrong? What if in a weird world they decided to run a GEP during the summer?
Oh, the GEPs, yes. GEPs and potentially, and I say potentially in quotes, SVAD's restricted electives can be taken in summer. Major courses will not be available in the summer, typically.
Look at me. I caught that one. Savage.
Awesome. So studio art is the same as illustration, and for concept art, you want us to go towards that.
It's up to you. So I want you to go toward what you want, what classes best fit your future career. So if your classes, if you want to just draw and do concept art and that is your thing, and you look at the schedule that I have on the screen right now and you go, but I don't want to do 80% of those things. Don't take my major. And that's not me being like dismissive. I want you to do your research and look at all the different classes each program takes and say, what is the majority, the best fit for me? And so that may not be a perfect fit. By the way, there is no perfect fit. It doesn't exist in any school. But I will say this, if you look at this and go, the majority of these classes catch my attention, maybe this is the one you go for. If you look at illustration and go, ooh, I could take a lot more drawing and I really want to draw, and Matt doesn't give me the opportunity in their track to do that. Like, it's not my fault. Well, kind of is my fault, but you know, you may say, well, I'm not going to go with Matt. I'm going to go with the BFA. Hopefully that helps.
So this is another question regarding looking into making an animatic that worked more as a dance study of motion. If the person uses a dance choreography, is that subject to copyright?
Nah, you're fine.
That can work against her in the portfolio.
I don't think anyone on our committee would be able to identify dance choreography. No offense to my faculty and my colleagues. That's a good question, though. I like that you asked, right? Like, better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Is the informational session next Friday about portfolio are similar to this session, or does it focus on other aspects?
I like to think mine is better.
Yeah, Matt. Next Friday is the studio art portfolio, so you will basically get it's a similar format. The information will be a little bit different because their portfolios are different. And that one will be recorded also and posted. All right.
The studio art, and if I could speak to that briefly, the studio art portfolio is going to focus on traditional artwork. There are no digital artwork allowed. So, and I'm not saying that in a way to dismiss that. Just understand that it's only going to be a traditional drawing, traditional design work, traditional 3D sculpture, you name it. No digital stuff.
And you answered the Muppet-esque puppet question, right?
I think I did.
Yeah,
I would do that in a Kermit the Frog voice, but I sound like it already.
All right, let's see here. If I have all of the GEP classes, what classes can I take during the summer if I'm accepted into the program? Tiffany, definitely follow up with SVAD advising. We will assist you in potential classes if we have any that you can take in the summer.
And you know, just to say that real quick, GEP summer classes are I don't want to say surprises, but like, we don't know ahead of time sometimes what the summer classes are going to be based on budget and what the state says and all that good stuff and what the university says. So don't feel like we're being dismissive there. Just understand that, you know, when we find out what we get, we're like, ooh, classes, you know, like we get excited and then we'll make sure you all know.
Thank you, Matt. You did such a good job of explaining that.
I think it's that behind the scenes, right?
Yes,
it's the behind the scenes
definitely.
that students don't see, but they need to hear about sometimes.
Definitely. I appreciate that. Thank you. For the time-based media submission, I have a piece of animation that I made with a group of people. Is that allowed to be submitted, or is it better to submit a solo project?
It depends, right? I think that's a fantastic question. I definitely would put like a quick cred to say this is a group-based project and let us know what you did. You can let us know on the video. You can let us know by just like where you put the YouTube link, just putting a sentence that says, hey, I did A, B, and C. Remember, if it's a group-based project and I don't know what you did, you could see where that would be a communication issue. If it is a solo project and there's no question that you did the whole thing and it's clear, you know, oh, that's your work, then it may benefit for you. But ultimately, you may have done a group project where you did 90% of the work. We all know how it works, right? And so tell me that, and I'll believe you. So it's really up to you in the long run. But communicate. And that's what, like I said, a good student has communication, which all of you are asking a fantastic question. I'm getting excited because, you know, I look forward to seeing some of these portfolios.
I was just going to say, there was one question you got really excited about. And I'm like, you haven't even looked at the portfolios yet. You're getting excited.
I know. Look at all this stuff I'm going to get. This is going to be fun.
Can you look at the question from Keith Jinks at 445? Because I cannot say 2 words.
Absolutely.
So I
realize, I'm sorry I'm making you read all these now in retrospect.
No, that's okay. I just don't want to mess those words up.
I totally forgot, by the way. So would a series of work, for example, a triptych or a diptych, be considered as one piece? Yes. This would be considered, let me undo this. This would be considered one piece. This different view would be considered one piece. So that also answers, Keith, your question about 3D work, multiple angles. I would suggest multiple angles, but like if I scroll down here to this, that's one angle and that's still a really pretty picture. So use your better judgment, okay? But if you want to show multiple angles or a close-up shot or a detail, as long as you crop it as one JPEG, right? That's in your portfolio or the PDF, so to speak. As you can see, like I said, like this is one singular image. That's how I'm going to count it. Now, if Keith, if you put 4 different artworks in here, I'm going to be like, oh, I'm going to call like mold in 5 pieces, right? But you can definitely tell this is one artwork just shown different ways.
Thank you. When is the character animation info session? It's in October, October 13th, I believe. We will be sending information out on that via email also.
Great.
Let's see.
I think that's it.
That's it.
You know, I want to really quickly thank everyone for being here today. We will post this recording. You will start to see emails from SVAD in a couple of weeks at least about like maybe portfolio review events and things like that. I want to thank Wahida for staying late and helping me out here too. Not that any of us were going to drive home in this thunderstorm, so it worked out rather well. I am super stoked to see where you all go, whether that's experimental or wherever you end up. You all have bright futures ahead of you, and just, you know, communicate, be respectful, professional, passionate, and we are super thrilled to have you either as, you know, potential SVAD students or those of you who are already SVAD students. Welcome. We look forward to working with you in some facet, whether you're in our track or not. We can't wait to see what you produce.
Yep. And again, please come in and see Marlene, myself, or Jessica, and Sam will definitely help you get those appointments scheduled. So reach out to us via email and we will schedule those appointments for you all to come in. And we look forward to getting you all ready for portfolio.
Yeah. All right. Talk
Thanks,
to you all
Matt.
soon.
This was Ace.
Have a wonderful day, everyone. We're going to stop the
Thank
recording
you.
here.